Hello, Nacita School Community. This is Tanya Ketlowski. I am live from the school today. I am sharing our first of three sessions regarding our budget overview for the 24-25 budget. We have just about completed our audit for the 23-24 school year. So we have that information almost certified. It's at the state level, just waiting for all of that. And then we are, of course, at this year's budget where we predicted the budget. We did a forecast prediction, which put us into the annual meeting, which was October 5th this year. We had the annual meeting where we provided the prospective budget because we did not at that point yet have any certified numbers to use. But we presented that, and then at the end of October, our board did finalize the budget for 24-25 based on the certification of the information we needed to finalize that budget. So I am going to present that information with accuracy now because, again, at the annual meeting, we didn't have accurate information. We just had projections. So I'm going to go into that. Today is the first of the three and will include kind of a high-level overview, and then the second and third session that we do together on Facebook Live will be more of the nitty-gritty numbers and the information that came that helped us to determine the budget for the year. So the first thing I'd like to do is our school board is responsible for the financial information and forecasting and determination. They approve the final budget at the end of the month of October. So this is our school board, and they have done a phenomenal job with their conservative forecasting. That has allowed us to always, in my 8 years here, remain within the threshold of what we have shared with our community in terms of what we predict, whether it's mill rate or whether it's referenda. So this is just some of the information regarding that fiscal responsibility. We were able to refinance some debt that ended up in some savings for our taxpayers. We have been very active in passing resolutions to advocate for revenue for our district. We've shared those with state legislators and at the state level, including our own local legislators. And we've redesigned what is kind of an unfunded liability within school districts, and that is our post-employment benefit plans. That is specifically related to teacher benefits when it comes to retirement, and we have re-looked at that, and now we have a system and structure that the liabilities are actually funded. So we were happy about that. That was almost $1 million savings when our board worked with teachers to redesign that. The annual contributions of Fund 46, which is a capital project fund, our board, whenever they can at the end of the year, if we can save some money and put that away into that Fund 46, that helps us fund things that we didn't predict in any budget year, such as, a boiler going out or something happening that requires us to come up with a larger sum of money that we can't fund because it wasn't budgeted for. That Fund 46 helps us to be able to manage those costs. The annual contributions of fund balance. Our fund balance is sort of the idea, generally speaking. There's more to it than this, but it's the idea of kind of that savings account that helps us to establish credit rating and to be able to manage the highs and lows of when we have expenses but yet haven't received state funding, because there's always gaps between us starting school and having to pay staff and actually receiving payment from the state revenue. So we always have to figure out how we're going to pay for that. Some of the opportunities of not having to short-term borrow as much comes from having that fund balance. Strategic actions, we have really looked at short-term borrowing and figuring out how to save regarding that strategy because we have been forced to short-term borrow because of what I had just previously mentioned. There is not enough fund balance to offset the expenses that we incur for those first few payrolls. So we have really partnered with some lending institutions who work really good with schools to create savings on interest, and actually have actually inverted that strategy to actually create interest for us off that short-term borrowing plan. So that strategy has worked well for us. We have really put into place a bus purchase plan, which we didn't have until I think 2017-18. We started a bus replacement plan, and that bus replacement plan is something that we're budgeting for regularly. And so we're trying to put that as part of our operational expenses, and that helps us to save on some of the maintenance and things that come with owning our own bus company. The last thing that I would just say is we have really worked hard on finding energy efficiencies. We work with different companies to monitor and to assess and to then change and respond to what it is the data is showing us. And we have been able to find recently some really incredible savings with electricity efficiencies. So we've been happy to have a couple thousand a month we've saved regarding that data use and that plan. So district needs in terms of our demographics and different things regarding our students and families and community. We have a very significant population of students with special needs. They have identified disabilities that require them to have what's called an IEP, or an individualized plan. That plan is meant to determine their special needs and how we can address those needs in order to sort of level the playing field with them being in a general classroom. How do we address a child who can't see? How do we address a child who has some language barriers? Maybe it's a student who has some fairly significant dyslexia, or something that's getting in the way of a child being successful in the classroom without added services. So we have 150 students in our district. Generally speaking, for a round number, we have about 700 total students. So it gives you an idea of that number. That $1 million of transfer means that every year we transfer out of what is called our regular general education fund, which is Fund 10. We transfer over $1 million. As a matter of fact, this year it's going to be close to almost $1.5 million that we transfer from our general fund to support our children who have special needs or disabilities. That is unfunded liability, because it's a liability, meaning it's required of us to meet that need and to provide those services. But it's unfunded, meaning the state is only paying 30% of every dollar that is needed to fund that particular need. And so we have a total of expenses that we incur by providing the support children need to be successful, and we're required to do that by law, both federal and state law. But although the law requires it, it is an unfunded requirement. So each year, for every child who has a disability, we have to take money from our general fund to support that, because it's an unfunded requirement. The other thing that had been continually changing the last few years is the amount of children who are receiving free or reduced lunch with us. We are over 63% at this point, with some of our elementary classes actually having 100% children in that place. So that, of course, is part of a need that we address to be sure our children are set up for success and having what they need, and their families have what they need to be successful. Our transportation costs are associated with, for example, 23-24, our buses traveled over 170,000 miles during the 9-month school year. And so that helps, you kind of have an understanding of the costs and expenses associated with providing transportation to our children. So the next part I have on here is just kind of some things that we expect out of ourselves in terms of how we reach every child. And it's really about a personalized approach. We want our students highly engaged. We don't just want them passive learners in the classroom. We want them truly as learners in the driver's seat and to help direct their own learning and to be a part of the learning process in highly engaged ways. And we also have a very strong understanding of the social and emotional supports our children need in order to be successful as well. In the previous slide, I had shared a little bit about the demographics of special education, and there is that significant shortfall in terms of special education funding. Again, out of 100% we pay to support the children's needs, only 30% is actually funded by the state when it comes to meeting those needs. So in the circle there, you can see that Necedah area is circled there in the orange. And that circle represents that out of every child who is not identified as a child with a learning disability, we take about $2,000 we get per pupil of that regular education child and use that to fund an unfunded portion of a need of a child who does have a disability. So it really helps you see that when the state decides they're going to help fund special education, it absolutely helps every single child because that money is coming from the regular education budget to fund that unfunded portion of the liability that we have. We also are looking at this next biennium. I mean, when you look at where we'll advocate from our school district at the state level, you can see that private schools are funded at 90% and public schools are funded at 33%. Private schools do not necessarily have to take children with disabilities, nor do they have to service them, but they are funded at 90%, where we in public schools, we have to take them, we do have to service them, and we're funded at 33%. So that discrepancy and that gap is really concerning from a public school standpoint, and we will continue to advocate for an increase in aid when it comes to special education funding. The last slide I'm going to share for today, and we're going to hit our 15-minute mark here pretty quick, and that is that we really have a full understanding and appreciate that one size does not fit all. We really want to individualize things to meet the needs of every child. We want that learning environment to be somewhat flexible, knowing that kids learn in all different ways. We also want to make sure there's targeted support when our children are struggling or they have areas of need or gaps in learning, particular content or in general. And we really want to think about competency-based, which means we're thinking about the skills they're actually showing us. We're not just looking at racking up a bunch of points and determining by points how a student's doing. We really want to address what skills they have or what skills they don't have, and getting really down into the root of how it is we help that child continue to grow around competencies or skills or standards. And then lastly, it is very important to us to allow our students opportunities outside of the classroom to experience things and to get kind of hands-on, more project-based learning opportunities. And we do try to do a lot of that so that, that experience is really important to us. And to do that, we form a lot of community partnerships and service learning to be able to move forward in that way. So that is where I'm going to end today. We are approaching that 15-minute mark is where I want to end each of these sessions. And I would just end with, we're really focused on two different areas: creating that powerful learner that helps form our strategies and helps inform our budget, because we know what we're trying to do to help kids grow and to learn in different ways than just the academic standards. We always say we're more than the Common Core. We are about helping our students grow in areas that are beyond the content standards of the core. We really want them to learn how to be good citizens, and we really want them to learn how to be kind of those dispositions of respectful, engaged, dependable, and self-controlled. And then certainly around our graduate profile, developing skills of critical thinking, problem solving, communication, and working with others. So next time we get together, which I'm not sure when that'll be exactly, but it'll be soon, we'll start getting into some of the nitty-gritty of the actual budget and how we determine the budget and the things that contributed to that budget and that finalization that we made at the end of October. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to connecting you again on the second of 3 of our sessions together. Have a good rest of the day, everyone.